I have a question about the how do we convert the assessment in the online courses for the normal grades that we used to assess the student in the old times for the normal courses.
Well, you certainly can do assessment for grades online as well. And I wouldn't say that you couldn't do that. You can do that, or you can assess them in the regular classroom in a conventional way, whatever seems most appropriate for having a fair grade. But I really would like to see more use of assessment for learning, and where the information from an assessment is something that students actually welcome, because this helps me learn. This helps me know what I need to do. So if we think about empowering the learner and giving them more control and, in a sense, more respect, and then they can tell us, now I'm ready for the summative assessment. Now I'm ready for you to challenge me and give me a grade. But everything that occurred up to now is no risk, fault-free, because that was to support my learning. I think that's the method we can move toward, and we can either do the final summative assessment online or face-to-face, whichever way you feel is most appropriate.
Okay, from my understanding from your presentation, the blended learning is quite emphasized, according to my understanding. Okay. So, and also face-to-face instructions and online instructions are complementary, all right?
Yes.
Okay. So, another important feature in your presentation is the introduction of the virtual environment in which students can virtually experience the reality in class that may not be possible to take place in terms of equipment, in terms of learning times, in terms of a lot of limited resources. Okay. Now, one question I would say, comparing Hong Kong education with US education, I would say ours is a bit behind in terms of using virtual technology. Now, one question I would raise, can we follow your blended learning hypothesis because of our no-graded technology in terms of using virtual technology? So I would like to ask you to compare our education with yours. Would you have any suggestions to our university, okay, what is it, how to make it keep ahead with the technology advancement in USA in order to implement? Now the research indicated that blended learning is important, face-to-face communication and virtual environments are all complementary. What to emphasize is extending the students' learning time.
Right.
That is the main point.
Right.
How to motivate them, how to get them to get involved, and so they are willing to spend the time. That's why we emphasize on content, variety of approaches in order to enhance the motivation.
Engage them, yes.
And engagement,
yes.
right.
Yes.
So that's my question. My question, would you please be boldly compare between our system and your system, and please frankly point out our weaknesses, in particular in implementation of virtual environment in achieving all this, you make use of this finding, okay, research, okay?
Well, I do want to say that we have many issues with our infrastructure as well, and the richness of the virtual environment that many students are able to be exposed to in the United States, particularly when you go below the university level, when you go to primary and secondary. I think where you can be smarter is focusing on the quality of the learning activity, and if you don't have the bandwidth for the virtual environment with all the bells and whistles, don't worry so much about that. Worry about how interesting the question is you're giving students and the quality of the content, and making that available online to as many possible levels of internet connections as you can. So I think your instructional technology people can help you minimize the bandwidth requirements, and it's the quality of that instructional design and using the formative assessment and combining it with classroom instruction, where I think you'll really get the power. And you know that, what's the thing that was most confusing about the things you just did? All the student needs to do is, you're just a simple text box. It doesn't have to be terribly fancy. So I think you can focus on the instructional content of this, and the technology, will get better and better in all of our countries. It will get cheaper and cheaper over time. And I think we're sometimes countries that have more, or feel that they have more resources, or companies can get off track, is they spend time on making a beautiful interface with lots of fancy animation and bells and whistles that don't really connect very well with the content. And one of the things we saw in the research studies was that if those things are not relevant to the content, they don't really help learning. So students might think, oh, it's cool, but they don't really help learning. And I think we want to engage students with the activity we set up and the content, not just because the graphics are snazzy.